A new way to see yourself. Welcome to a new beginning. Take a moment. Imagine you are standing by your window in a quiet little town called Lake Hill. It is early in the morning. The sun is just starting to rise. The sky is soft and golden. The birds are singing. The air feels fresh. Everything is calm. This is not just another day. This is a new start. This is a chance to take control not of the outside world, but of your thoughts, your mind, and your life. In this town, there is a young woman named Emma. She is 21 years old and comes from Brazil. She moved to Lake Hill last year to study at a small language school. Emma loves books and music. She also loves learning new languages. But there was one big problem. Emma was afraid of speaking English. Every time she tried to speak, she made small mistakes. People corrected her. Sometimes people laughed. That made her feel shy and embarrassed. She started thinking, maybe I will never speak English well. These words played again and again in her mind like a sad song. I'm just not good at this, she said to herself. Maybe English is not for me. Then one day, while walking through the school library, Emma saw a small book with a blue cover. The title was The Magic of Thinking Big. She opened it and read one simple line that stopped her in her tracks. Your words shape your world. She read it again. Slowly, your words shape your world. Emma sat down with the book. She read one chapter, then another. That night, she could not stop thinking about that message. Could it really be true? Could her thoughts and words be the reason she felt stuck? The idea felt new, but also powerful. The next morning, Emma stood in front of her mirror in her small room in Lake Hill. She looked at herself and thought, what if I changed the way I talk to myself? What if I stopped saying, I can't, and start saying, I'm learning? It was a small change, but it felt different. It felt like a new beginning. So, she made a new promise to herself. She would stop using words that made her feel small. She would use words that helped her grow. She started saying, I am improving every day. She started smiling after making a mistake and saying, that's okay. Mistakes help me learn. She started thinking of English not as a test, but as a door to a new life. Day by day, Emma changed. She didn't become fluent in 1 week. She still made mistakes, but she stopped hiding. She stopped giving up. She believed that English was possible. And that belief gave her strength. In The Magic of Thinking Big, the author David J. Schwartz writes, belief is the thermostat that regulates what we accomplish in life. Emma thought about that idea a lot. What does a thermostat do? It controls the temperature in a room. If you set it to 25 degrees, the room stays warm. It does not matter if the weather outside is cold. The room stays the same because the thermostat keeps it steady. Emma realized that belief works the same way. If she believed she could only speak a few words, then that's all she would ever say. If she believed she would always make mistakes, then she would stop trying. But if she believed she could learn more, she would keep moving forward. She would try new things. She would grow. That belief changed how she walked. It changed how she studied. It changed how she spoke. Emma's belief became her thermostat. She wrote a sentence on a piece of paper and taped it to her mirror. I am not perfect, but I am getting better every day. And every morning, in the quiet town of Lake Hill, as the sun rose over the rooftops, Emma stood in front of that mirror. She looked at herself, smiled gently, and read the words out loud. This was her new beginning. And it all started with a single belief. Emma was making progress. She was thinking more positively. She had stopped telling herself, I'm terrible at English, and started saying, I'm learning. She began to believe that she could improve. But even though her mindset had changed, she still had one bad habit. Every night, Emma watched drama shows on her phone. She loved the stories. The characters made her laugh and cry. She always said, just one more episode. But one episode became 2, and 2 became 3. Soon it was midnight or even later. The next morning, Emma woke up tired. Her head hurt. She went to school, but she couldn't concentrate. She forgot simple words in class. She couldn't speak clearly. Her teacher, Mr. Thomas, noticed and asked, "Emma, are you sleeping enough?" Emma just smiled and said, "I'm okay," but inside she knew the truth. Her English wasn't improving, not because she wasn't smart, but because she wasn't making good choices. That week, Emma started reading Chapter 2 of The Magic of Thinking Big. She sat under a tree near the school in Lake Hill and opened the book. One word on the page hit her hard. The word was excusitis. The book said excusitis is a disease. Not a disease of the body, but a disease of the mind. It's when your brain finds excuses to stop you from doing something important. Excusitis is the little voice in your head that says, "I'm too tired to study. I'm not smart like other people. Maybe it's too late for me." As Emma read these words, she felt uncomfortable. They sounded too familiar. They were her own excuses. Emma realized she had been doing the same thing. When things got hard, she gave up easily. She said, "I'll try tomorrow," or "I'm too busy today." But day after day, her English stayed the same. She had time to watch TV, but no time to review vocabulary. She had energy for social media, but not for reading. At that moment, something inside her shifted. She closed the book and looked around. It was a sunny morning in Lake Hill. The birds were singing. People were walking to the market. She got up and started walking too. On the way, she passed the small bakery near the corner. The smell of fresh bread came from the open door. It was run by Mrs. Coleman, a 70-year-old woman who always smiled. Emma liked her. But she had never spoken to her in English before. Today was different. Emma took a breath and said, "Good morning." To her surprise, Mrs. Coleman replied in clear English, "Good morning, dear. Keep practicing." Emma was shocked. "You speak English?" Mrs. Coleman laughed. "Yes, I started learning a few years ago. I wanted to speak to the tourists who come to Lake Hill. It wasn't easy, but I never gave up." Emma smiled, but her mind was spinning. A 70-year-old woman was learning English for fun. She didn't have a school. She didn't have a teacher. But she still tried. She didn't complain. She didn't say, "I'm too old." That moment changed something in Emma. If Mrs. Coleman could learn English, then what was stopping her? What excuse could she use now? That night, Emma went home and sat at her desk. She didn't turn on her phone. She didn't open her drama app. Instead, she took out her notebook. At the top of the page, she wrote, "From today, I will not let excuses speak louder than my dreams." Then, she set an alarm for the next morning 15 minutes earlier than usual. When the alarm rang the next day, she got up. She felt sleepy, but she didn't go back to bed. She went to her desk and wrote one sentence in English. "My name is Emma. I want to become fluent in English." She read it out loud, slowly twice. Each morning after that, she wrote one new sentence. She stopped saying, "I'll do it later," and started saying, "I'll do it now." Little by little, Emma's world began to change again. Not because she was perfect. Not because life got easier. But because she stopped making excuses and started taking action. And that made all the difference. Weeks passed quietly in the small town of Lake Hill. The air became cooler. The trees started to change color. Emma continued her new habits. Every morning, she woke up early and wrote a sentence in English. She no longer said, "I'll do it later." She said, "I'll do it now." Her grammar started to improve. She understood more words. She listened better in class. She still made mistakes when she spoke, but she didn't feel ashamed anymore. She smiled after each mistake and tried again. Her teacher, Mr. Thomas, noticed the change. He told her, "You are growing, Emma. Keep going." Emma felt stronger, little by little. She felt like someone who was moving forward, even if the steps were small. Then one rainy afternoon, something unexpected happened. It was a Thursday. The sky was gray. Rain tapped softly on the windows of the classroom. Emma and her classmates sat quietly as Mr. Thomas walked to the front of the room. He said, "Today, we will practice speaking. I'd like each of you to give a short speech about something you love." Emma froze. Her hands felt cold. Her heart started to race. She thought, "Please don't pick me." But Mr. Thomas turned to her and smiled. "Emma, would you like to go first?" Emma's hands began to shake. Her mouth was dry. Her mind screamed, "You're not ready. You're not good enough. Everyone will laugh. You'll make mistakes." She looked down at her desk. She almost said no. But then she remembered something from The Magic of Thinking Big. She had read it just a few days before. The line said, "The difference between success and failure is action." She thought about those words. Action, not being perfect, not waiting, just acting. Emma closed her eyes for a second. She took a deep breath. And then she stood up. Her legs felt weak, but she walked to the front of the classroom. She looked at her classmates. Her voice trembled. Her hands held the paper too tightly, but she began. She said, "Hello, my name is Emma. I'm from Brazil. Today I want to talk about something important to me." She talked about her family. She talked about her favorite books. She told the class how much she loved learning English, even though it was hard. She said her favorite English word was hope, because hope gave her the courage to try. At first, her voice was quiet, but as she continued, her voice became stronger. She smiled as she spoke. She felt her fear becoming smaller. When she finished, the room was silent for a moment. Then someone clapped, then more. Soon the whole class was applauding. Mr. Thomas smiled and said, "That's what bravery looks like." Emma sat down. Her heart was still beating fast, but she felt light. She felt proud. She had done something difficult. She had faced fear and taken action. From that day, Emma began to see herself in a new way. She was not just a student learning English. She was someone who could speak with courage. She was not perfect, but she was brave. She was not waiting anymore. She was doing. Emma went home and wrote a new list in her notebook. She called it Hero Habits. These were small things she wanted to do every day to keep growing. She wrote, "Say one new English sentence every day. Smile after mistakes. Never say I can't. Ask questions, even if your voice shakes. Start, even if it's not perfect." She read the list each morning. Some days were harder than others. Some days she still felt nervous, but she kept going. And each time she acted, her confidence grew. Emma learned something very important. You don't need to wait for the perfect moment. You don't need to wait until you feel ready. The only way to grow is to begin, even with shaking hands, even with a soft voice. Because every small action becomes a step forward, and those steps over time can change everything. In the quiet town of Lake Hill, under rainy skies and golden mornings, Emma had begun to write a new story. Not just in her notebook, but in her life. A story where she was not afraid to speak. A story where action led to growth. A story where belief became real. And it all started because she chose to stand up, even when she was scared. Emma's story is not about being perfect. It is about being brave. In a quiet town called Lake Hill, a young woman came with fears, doubts, and many excuses. She thought English was too hard. She was afraid to speak. She made mistakes and wanted to give up. But something changed. She read a book called The Magic of Thinking Big. From that moment, she decided to believe in herself. She stopped saying, "I can't," and started saying, "I'm learning." She stopped waiting and started acting. She woke up early. She wrote in English. She talked, even when her hands were shaking. Emma didn't become fluent in 1 week, but she became stronger. She smiled after mistakes. She stood in front of her class and spoke from the heart. She began to see herself as someone who could grow, who could lead, and who could inspire. And the truth is, you can do that too. The biggest lesson from Emma's story is this: your thoughts create your actions, and your actions shape your future. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to wait for the right moment. You just need to begin with one step, one word, one choice. So ask yourself today, what is one small thing I can do now to improve my English, my confidence, or my future? Take that small step, like Emma did. Congratulations on reaching the end of this story. You have just improved your English listening, understanding, and vocabulary. That's amazing progress. Be proud of yourself. And now, here is a small question for you. Let's see how much you remember. What is the name of Emma's teacher in Lake Hill, and Mr. Thomas? B. Mr. Carter. Please comment your answer A or B below. We'll reply and cheer you on. If you enjoyed this story and want more English lessons like this, please subscribe to our channel. It helps us continue to make high-quality content to support your learning. We also welcome small donations if you feel this story helped you. In the beginning, it's not easy to create meaningful, free content. But we do it with love to help you grow. Thank you for listening. And remember, you are not alone. You are learning, you are growing, and your voice matters.